And the other thing you mentioned was doubtful water. When is water doubtful? If a donkey or a mule drinks from it. This is in the Hanafi madhab. Alright? The others are not of that view. The evidence is very mixed. Depend how you look at it. So the Hanafis say if that was the only option, you only had one container of water and a donkey drinks from it, then they say that you should do wudu from it. You can do ghusl from it, but just do tayammum to be on the safe side. That's the Hanafi view. The issue with donkeys, firstly, donkeys are very common. People have them in their houses. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Sahaba used to travel on donkeys and mules all their life. When there is a dispute, the dispute is because there is no clear-cut evidence. There is nothing to say the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, do not drink from the leftover of donkeys. But there is a problem that you are not allowed to eat the meat of the donkeys. So if the meat is haram, the saliva is also is not clean according to Hanafis, unless there is a clear evidence to say it. In the case of cat, there is a clear evidence. Whether the meat of donkey is haram or not, that's also disputed. All right. So, and this is not a new dispute. That dispute is from the time of Sahaba. When the Sahaba were alive, they didn't all agree whether the meat of donkey is halal or haram. We can do some hadith, we can touch on some hadith. There are few hadith, but inshallah we'll touch on them. There are two issues. With donkeys, there are two issues. Firstly, about the meat. Is the meat of donkey halal or not? Donkey or mule, right? Second, is the leftover of donkey halal or not? Because now we know it is possible. If the meat is halal, then the leftover is halal. If the meat is not halal, then we need to know, is the leftover halal? Because donkey was very common and there is no clear-cut narration. And Sahaba, they were on different views on the matter. So there is a hadith, the hadith of Abhar bin Ghalib in Abi Dawood. He said in the time of drought and hunger, he went to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he said, I only have donkeys. He inquired about the donkeys. He said, I only have donkeys to feed my family, and you have made it haram. That's the wordings of the hadith. He says, I only have donkeys and you have made it haram. So the wording of the hadith is وَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَقَدْ كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ حَرَّمَ لُحُومَ الْحُمُرِ. So it clearly states that the meat of the donkey was made haram. But Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam allowed him. Actually, he told him, eat from the fattest donkeys you have, feed your family. One hadith says, I'm not sure if it's the same one, maybe it's the same hadith, which says, فَإِنَّمَا حَرَّمْتُهَا مِنْ أَجْلِ جَوَّالِ الْقَرْيَةِ. I made it forbidden on the account of the animals which, feed around the filth of the area of the town. I made it haram because these donkeys roaming around eating filth and non-filth. So on that basis I made it haram. Now this hadith, you can argue that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did make it haram and then he allowed it to eat. Or you can say he did make it haram, but then he allowed it to be eaten because it was drought and hunger, time of hunger, there was no other food available. In that case, if there was no other food available, a person can eat a pig. So this hadith is not clear cut, it's not decisive enough. You can argue both ways. So now we are left with a question: is it forbidden? Or is it now halal? Or was it only made halal because it was time of famine? Right? It was drought and hunger. So even though this hadith as an evidence is not a very strong hadith, but it is considered on the issue, is not ignored. But there is a better hadith in Bukhari actually. The hadith in Bukhari is from Zahir al-Aslami. He said, إني لأوقد تحت القدور بلحوم الحمر إذ نادى منادي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ينهاكم عن لحوم الحمر. He said, I was kindling the fire under the pots which had donkey meat in it. While I was doing that, a caller from the, a messenger from the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he called out. Someone came and he called out that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has, he forbids or prohibits donkey meat. And this narration is a very strong narration. There is another narration which also adds فَإِنَّهَا رِجْسٌ, that it is filth. So the Sahaba, they had different views when it came to donkeys. Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said his view was that it is unclean, alright, it's najasa. And Ibn Abbas, he considered it to be clean, the donkey, the meat and the saliva. So as for the hadith, they point toward the meat being haram, but the other side can argue, well, the hadith is a proof that meat is haram. We know the cat is haram, but does that automatically makes the leftover of the donkey, when if it drinks from water, that haram? Not really, because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahaba, they had donkeys all around them all the time, and no one ever narrated a narration about their leftovers. So now this dispute remains like that, and no one's gonna resolve it. You know why no one's gonna resolve it? If Sahaba did not agree on a matter, there is no one who can come after is gonna make you all unite on it. If a matter was clear enough to be united on, Sahaba would be the first people to unite on it. Alright? So it's an old dispute. So what's the Hanafi view? If a donkey drinks from water, you can use it, do wudu, but because of contradicting evidence or mixed evidence, you should do tayammum just in case. Clear? Clear.